Throughout history, humanity has been drawn to mysterious objects said to hold powers beyond comprehension. Across continents and centuries, civilizations have created amulets not merely as ornaments, but as symbols of divine protection, luck, and unseen energy. From the sands of Egypt to the temples of India, from the frozen mountains of Tibet to the heart of ancient Europe, people have believed that small pieces of metal, stone, or bone could guard a life, change a destiny, or connect a soul with something eternal. Some of these amulets became legendary, whispered about in sacred texts, worn by kings and warriors, and hidden away by those who feared their power would fall into the wrong hands. Long before science and medicine, people believed protection came from forces that couldn't be seen. The first amulets were born out of fear of the unknown. Evil spirits, diseases, or curses believed to drift through the air. The ancient Egyptians were among the first to craft these symbols of power. Every Egyptian, from a humble farmer to a pharaoh, wore one. The most powerful among them was the Eye of Horus, known as Wedjat. It was said to protect the wearer from harm and restore health, symbolizing healing and wholeness. Soldiers carried it into battle. Mothers placed it over their children's cribs, and the dead were buried with it to guide their souls safely through the afterlife. To the Egyptians, the eye was not just an image. It was a living force, watching, protecting, and blessing. But across the Mediterranean, another civilization believed in their own sacred object, the Greek Gorgonian. It bore the terrifying face of Medusa, the woman cursed with snakes for hair, whose gaze could turn men to stone. Rather than fear her, the Greeks turned her power into protection. Warriors engraved her face on their armor, shields, and temples. Ships carried her likeness on their prows to ward off storms and evil spirits at sea. The Gorgonian was not a symbol of beauty but of defiance. It reminded every enemy that terror itself could be turned into a shield. Even today, echoes of this belief survive in symbols we wear without thinking, believing they ward off bad luck. Centuries later, in the mystical traditions of India, the concept of sacred amulets took a deeply spiritual form. The yantra and talismanic Rudraksh beads were not meant to fight evil spirits, but to purify the mind and connect the soul to higher consciousness. A single Rudraksh bead, blessed through ritual, was said to hold the tears of Lord Shiva. Monks and warriors alike wore them, believing the beads could control emotions, sharpen focus, and protect the wearer from physical harm. These amulets didn't just defend, they transformed. They became a bridge between the material and spiritual worlds, teaching that true power came not from fear, but from balance. Meanwhile, in Europe, during the Middle Ages, amulets were both feared and sought after. Religion and superstition intertwined, and many of the church's own relics functioned as sacred amulets. Bones of saints, fragments of the true cross, or vials of holy water carried by the faithful. But among common folk, there was one amulet whispered about in secret, the Hand of Glory. According to legend, it was crafted from the hand of a hanged man and lit like a candle to protect thieves or grant invisibility. Though forbidden and feared, people believed it could freeze anyone it touched and open any locked door. It symbolized the darker side of humanity's hunger for power. How even sacred symbols could become tools of manipulation and fear. For every amulet of light, there was always one born from shadow. Yet across cultures, the idea remained the same. Power could be contained, carried, and transferred. The Native American tribes believed certain stones, feathers, and animal bones carried the spirit of the earth. The medicine bags of their shamans held sacred objects that connected them to ancestors and nature. Each item inside had a story, a prayer, a fragment of a life. These were not mere charms. They were personal universes, representing everything a person was and everything they hoped to become. When a warrior fell, his amulet was buried with him, ensuring that his courage would live on in the land and sky. What all these traditions share is something profoundly human. The desire to hold power in our hands, to protect what we love, and to find meaning in the unseen. From gold amulets crafted in royal workshops to crude stones tied with leather cords, each object carried a heartbeat, a belief that the universe could listen and respond. Even in the modern world, the legacy of these ancient amulets remains. We wear crosses, medals, crystals, and lucky charms, often without realizing that we are continuing a tradition older than any written history. The materials may have changed, but the longing is the same. To be protected, to be guided, and to feel that something greater walks beside us, even when we cannot see it. In every corner of the world, ancient people carried small tokens of faith close to their hearts, sometimes hidden under clothing, other times proudly displayed around the neck. These amulets were never just accessories. They were a dialogue between humans and the invisible. Over time, the line between superstition and spirituality blurred, giving rise to objects that held stories of miracles, protection, and destiny. The power wasn't in the metal or the stone itself, but in the belief that something unseen was listening. It's a belief that has never truly disappeared. Even today, millions of people carry something, a pendant, a ring, a coin, believing it guards them from misfortune. If you love discovering these mysterious pieces of history and the untold stories behind them, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and help us reach our first 300 subscribers. Your support helps us bring more incredible stories like this one to life. One of the most enigmatic talismans in recorded history is the Seal of Solomon, a symbol said to grant King Solomon control over both demons and angels. Depicted as a six-pointed star, two interlocking triangles, it was believed to be more than just a geometric figure. In medieval grimoires, magicians claimed that the symbol could trap spirits, reveal hidden knowledge, and even protect the bearer from physical harm. Over time, it became one of the most recognizable emblems of power, appearing on rings, shields, and manuscripts across centuries. For believers, it represented wisdom over chaos, the harmony between the human and the divine. In the deserts of the Middle East, nomads carried another symbol of protection, the Hamsa hand, or the Hand of Fatima. Its 5 fingers extended outward to ward off the evil eye, a curse believed to be cast by envy or malice. To this day, you can find the Hamsa in homes, cars, and jewelry across the Arab world and beyond. It is both Muslim and Jewish, both ancient and modern, a shared heritage that transcends religion. Mothers would hang it near cribs to protect their newborns. Travelers would wear it before long journeys. The symbol's message was always the same: you are not alone. Remember, if stories like these inspire you, if you enjoy uncovering the mysteries that shaped human belief, please subscribe now and help us reach that first milestone, 300 subscribers. Every click helps this community grow stronger. Moving east, in the heart of Tibet, monks crafted amulets known as Gao boxes. Tiny silver cases engraved with mantras and filled with sacred relics or scriptures. These portable shrines were believed to create a protective barrier against evil spirits and illness. Each Gao box was personal, handmade, and charged through prayer. Some were passed down for generations, their surfaces worn smooth by time and devotion. When a monk traveled through the mountains, this amulet was his shield, his home, and his connection to the divine. To lose it was to lose a part of his soul. Across the ocean, in Africa, amulets took on a different kind of power, known as gris-gris. These small pouches filled with herbs, stones, and bones were carried by warriors, healers, and shamans. Each one was crafted for a specific purpose: protection, love, strength, or vengeance. The gris-gris were not made in temples, but in the heart of villages, by hands that understood the language of the earth. Even when enslaved Africans were taken across the Atlantic, they carried their beliefs with them, blending them with new faiths and creating something entirely unique. a spiritual survival through symbols. If you're enjoying this journey through time and culture, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Your support helps preserve these stories of ancient wisdom and brings us closer to our goal of 300 subscribers. Together, we can keep these legends alive for a new generation of curious minds. The idea that a simple object could shield the soul reveals something profound about humanity. Every civilization, no matter how distant, looked for ways to make the invisible tangible, whether carved from gold or woven from simple thread. Amulets became a bridge between fear and faith, between mortality and eternity. They reminded people that the world was not just physical, that unseen forces, both light and dark, moved around them every day. And perhaps that's why even now, in a world of science and technology, we still reach for something small to carry with us, something that whispers protection when logic falls silent. Across time, the bond between humans and their amulets deepened into something far more personal than mere superstition. They became silent witnesses to life, passed from parent to child, from soldier to widow, from believer to wanderer. Each carried fingerprints, prayers, and tears of generations. Some were buried with their owners, while others resurfaced centuries later in ruins or tombs, still shining faintly under the dust of time. In every civilization, these sacred symbols were treated not just as objects, but as living presences, protectors that seemed to breathe with the will of those who believed in them. In ancient Egypt, amulets were not only for the living, but also for the dead. Archaeologists have discovered mummies covered in dozens of protective charms. Small beetles, eyes, and hands crafted from gold, lapis lazuli, and turquoise. Among them, the scarab beetle was one of the most revered, representing rebirth and transformation. It symbolized the sun god rolling his chariot across the sky each morning. Pharaohs believed that wearing the scarab in life and death ensured eternal renewal. Even after thousands of years, many of these tiny carvings still bear hieroglyphs that read, "To live again, to rise each day with the sun." In medieval times, knights rode into battle wearing charms hidden beneath their armor. Some wore small relics of saints, while others carried talismans engraved with Latin invocations. They believed these symbols could make their armor stronger, their swords truer, and their hearts braver. Whether in the Holy Lands or in Europe's endless wars, faith became their shield. For them, an amulet was not only divine protection. It was a reminder of home, of mothers praying for their safe return, of the fragile line between life and eternity. Far to the east, samurai warriors held a similar reverence for their omamori, Japanese amulets blessed by monks and believed to protect the soul. Each omamori was sealed in silk and carried for a specific purpose: victory in battle, success in study, or safety on long journeys. They were never opened, for doing so would release the spirit's power within. Over centuries, they evolved into a national tradition. Today, millions of Japanese people still carry them, unaware that the habit links them directly to the ancient warriors who once placed their fate in the hands of unseen gods. In Africa and the Caribbean, belief took on rhythm and color. The blending of indigenous traditions with colonial religions gave birth to new protective symbols, merging Catholic saints with ancestral spirits. Beads, bones, and cloth wrapped in prayer became a universal language of protection. Every shade meant something: red for power, white for purity, black for mystery. When enslaved Africans were torn from their homelands, they carried pieces of their old world within these amulets, preserving their strength and their identity even in chains. The power of faith traveled across oceans, surviving where armies could not. In South America, ancient civilizations had their own forms of sacred charms. The Incas wore small gold figures of llamas and jaguars, offerings to the gods of the mountains. The Aztecs carved turquoise masks that symbolized life and divine energy. In their temples, Priests placed these sacred objects on altars as living offerings, believing they could communicate directly with the gods. Even now, villagers in the Andes carry small stones blessed by elders, believing they guard them from lightning and illness. Centuries may have passed, but the ritual remains the same. The human need to carry a fragment of the sacred wherever one goes. Modern science may have explained away much of what our ancestors feared. Yet even now, the old instinct persists. Pilots carry lucky coins before takeoff. Athletes kiss their medals before competition. And travelers wear small crosses or crystals before boarding a plane. Whether we call it faith, energy, or destiny, it is the same ancient rhythm that has guided humanity since its dawn. The objects may be new, the prayers modern, but the longing behind them is timeless, a quiet plea to the universe. Protect me, guide me, let me return home. These amulets, ancient or modern, remind us of something essential, that power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it hides in silence, in a carved stone, in a string of beads, in a symbol whispered through generations. And though we may no longer believe in gods that dwell in the wind or stars that decide our fate, deep down, we still carry their echoes. Because in the end, it's not the amulet that holds power, it's the faith we place inside it. As centuries unfolded, the world changed, but the quiet power of amulets endured. They adapted, took new forms, and survived every era. Through empires, religions, and revolutions. Even when faiths rose to condemn them or science sought to explain them away, humanity never stopped believing that small things could hold great meaning. The amulet became a bridge between the past and the present, a whisper from those who came before us saying, Asterisk, you are not alone. Asterisk in this way, the oldest belief of all, that something unseen walks beside us, continues to breathe in modern life, just as it did in ancient temples. In museums around the world, behind glass and bright light, lie these fragments of forgotten prayers. Some are cracked, some darkened with age, but all seem to hum with the same quiet energy. The Eye of Horus, the Hand of Fatima, the Saint Benedict Medal, the Nazar bead. Their shapes vary, yet their message is identical. They speak of fear, of love, of longing, of the endless desire to feel safe in an unpredictable world. When you stand before them, you can almost sense the hands that once held them. A mother praying for her child, a warrior preparing for battle, a wanderer lost in the desert whispering to the wind. Every amulet is a story carved into eternity. There is something deeply human in this act of carrying protection close to the heart. We may call it superstition, tradition, or faith, but it reveals a truth about who we are. We all crave connection, to the divine, to destiny, to something larger than ourselves. For some, that connection comes through prayer. For others, through a small symbol that carries their hopes when words are not enough. Whether forged in gold or woven from thread, these amulets become containers of emotion. They remind us that belief itself is a kind of power, invisible but unbreakable. In our modern world of concrete, glass, and machines, the amulet still finds its place. A necklace passed down from a grandmother, a lucky charm worn before an exam, a small cross hanging from a mirror. Each one is a continuation of the same ancient ritual. They are not about magic, but about meaning. When life becomes uncertain, when fear returns, people instinctively reach for something to hold. That gesture, simple and universal, is what keeps the tradition alive. It's not about the object itself. It's about remembering that hope can be touched, carried, and felt against the skin. Across generations, these sacred pieces remind us of a truth older than any civilization. Protection is not always physical. Sometimes it is the comfort of memory, the strength of belief, or the courage to face the unknown. The ancients carved their gods into stone. We wear ours in silence. And though time has turned their myths into museum pieces, the spirit within them endures. timeless, gentle, eternal. In the end, amulets are not about superstition or luck. They are reflections of the human soul. Fragile yet unyielding, fearful yet full of faith. They tell us that even when everything changes, the essence of humanity remains the same. We seek light in the darkness, we hold on to symbols when words fail, and we believe fiercely that something beyond ourselves listens. Perhaps that is the greatest power of all. Not the charm itself, but the heart that dares to believe in it.